back with Jackie's Lyric Corner. I am Jackie, and I want to share books that I must, or I say must in quotes, read in 2024 because, of course, once again, I am overly ambitious and picked out a bunch of books. I'm thinking, pointing and be like, oh, I must read that one, I must read that one, and I really know that I can't. So really, I say these are more tentative must-reads, books that I want to attempt to continue with or pick up in, because a lot of them are also books that I've started a while back and need to finish them. Because especially the longer the book is, the more prone I am to do that, where I will start it and get into it, and then I'll all of a sudden get restless and get distracted by either the books I just purchased recently, or, if I, or other books I'm just more inspired to read. So this is a lot. I really should not have picked out all these books. I should have just stuck to the list that I typed up, which was 24 books. But I can't help myself. I have a problem. So, these are tentative options for books I want to read in 2024. Okay, so first we have Suetonius' Lives of the Caesars, which in this translation is by Catherine Edwards. And this is basically him talking about a lot of the Caesars of Rome, and a lot of people say Suetonius reads like a gossip column, and I'm still apprehensive to read him because I'm worried that some people because, what someone considers reading like a gossip column is still more challenging for me. But I mean, it's a tie between, I keep going back and forth between The Rubicon by Tom Holland, which, no, not the actor, but there's an author, but his name is Tom Holland, but it was either that one, which is also about Rome, or this one, although this one is shorter than The Rubicon. So I feel like I should get to this one next, and then maybe do that one. Because basically I'm basically reading everything about Rome I can get my hands on, so I think I will attempt this one first, and then maybe later this year I might read The Rubicon. And then we have, let me go ahead and get this one out of there, The Lord of the Rings. This is a trilogy a book written in 3 parts that I've attempted, and I attempted the Fellowship, but for the longest time it was like, it's so much easier for me just to watch the movie. But then, at one point I was inspired to try reading the book again. Oh, this is where my Hobbit bookmark is. And I do like it. So when I like it, I mean, I love the movie. So it's the same story, just with different details. I mean, just with more details. I did start, my latest excuse was, I want to read the Silmarillion first. But that's a hard read. It's kind of like reading the Bible for Christians, only and you would think it would be fun to read because it's kind of about a fantasy world and the origins of a fantasy world and their beliefs and all that, their mythology that Tolkien made up. But it's still kind of hard because it still reads like the Bible. And I've never read the Bible all the way through. I think it's a great feat if you can do it. And you probably shouldn't read it straight through. You should maybe try, I think a good idea is reading it in parts. But yeah, so that's my excuse. That's my latest excuse. But I think I just need to pick this up. And Game of Tomes is reading this book at some point. I don't know when. I don't remember when the Game of Tomes group, just made of Caroline and Emmy. Caroline Marie Reads and Emmy, and they're reading a lot of big books, and this is one of them. I don't know when, so But I think I might save it for the springtime. I don't know. I keep thinking about picking it up. I mean, it really probably doesn't matter because there's so much. There's all 3 parts in this one volume, this one big book. So I could start it now if I wanted to. See, that's the other thing. As I always say, I look at all these books and look at them and be like, oh, I need to read that one now. Oh, I should read that one now. And then I'm getting overwhelmed and, you know, I can't. Okay, and then we have, I think this is book 5 in the series, The Family. Oh, you know what? I'm just going to take this. I should just take this off because it's like falling. It's ripped. I mean, I'm hesitant. I almost don't want to, but see, like, look, it's all ripped. So, I mean, I don't want to throw it away, but it's like falling apart. But this is the family parsonage. It's the I think it's book 5 in the Barsetshire series by Anthony Trollope, and he's one of the classic authors that I want to prioritize this year and read more of his works. I mean, he reads very much like Dickens. I mean, there are differences, of course, but he does read like Dickens in a lot of ways. And to me, I can't choose between the two of them. I know there are people that do have a preference for Trollope or Dickens, but I love them both so far, what I read so far. So, I do want to focus on with him. But actually, the author I probably should prioritize out of the classic authors is crap. I mean, at least I found my Gilmore Girls bookmark, my other Gilmore Girls bookmark. The bookmark just fell out, and now I gotta figure out where I left off. That is The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins. This is another author that I need to get back to because so far I have 3 of his books, and I've started all 3 of them, but have put all 3 of them down. And it's not that I'm not interested, but they're slow going, and I need to just take the time to read a good chunk and make, that way I can get into the story. And I feel like I probably should start with this one because it's the shortest one out of the 3 that I have. And the problem is, like, I think about saving some of these books because of, like, the themes or the plot for different parts of different times in the year. But then I'm like, maybe I should just start reading them sooner rather than later and not just save them for a certain time of year. Just pick it up. See, this is what I don't like about tassel bookmarks is they get caught on stuff and then it falls out and now I have to find where I left off. I mean, the good news is it's on Goodreads. I've recorded on Goodreads where I've left off, so. Here's my Gilmore Girls bookmark. I was looking for this one. So yeah, now I have to put this back in here. So yeah, these are 2 of the classic authors I definitely want to prioritize this year. But I haven't picked up either one of them in January. I'm gonna put this one away. Either that or throw it away, which I almost don't want to throw it away. The cover, the dust jacket for this, but it's like, it's not gonna make it. So then we have one of my few shorter works in this pile here, and that is The Awakening and Other Stories by Kate Chopin. I keep saying I'm going to read The Awakening, but every year I delay getting to it. It's not that I don't want to read it. It's just, I get so easily sidetracked by other books. So I keep needing to pick this one up and read it. So, and plus, also, the problem is it's in a collection. So even though I'm like, I want to read The Awakening, I'm like, but I should probably read it in, read the collection in order and read the book, first, because The Awakening is not until it is, it's later in the book. It's not right away. So, and if I read them in order, then I won't get to the awakening anyway. So it's like I always, when I'm reading a collection like this, I want to read it in order of how it's set up in the book. So I mean, it makes sense to me, my confusion, but to other people it probably might not make sense. But yeah, so there's that one. I should actually, you know what I should do? I should put my Gilmore Girls bookmark in this one. And put the, put a different bookmark in the Moonstone book. But, next is, this is a book from a series that I keep thinking about giving it a shot, and, I keep looking at it, and finally I bought it, and, I kept meaning to read it, and I haven't yet, and that is Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. The third and the final book in the trilogy came out only a couple years, came out a year or two ago. The Mirror and the Light, I think it was. And this is about Thomas Cromwell and his, how he came to power, and how he's very ambitious and manipulative and a bully, and just it's kind of like I said, basically his rise to power. So I keep meaning to read it. Again, there's most of these books, if I, are books that I've, like I said, I started to read them, or I've been meaning to read them. And I really should pick out books from this pile and then take them out and read them, instead of just putting them all back and then picking them out. I should pick out a book from these piles, keep them out, and put all the rest of them back, and then read. And those ones will be the ones I start reading. But I'm also in the middle of some books right now. Okay, and then we have another book in a trilogy, although actually it's not a trilogy anymore. I think it's a 4-book series. The Shadow of Night, from the All Souls trilogy. Like I said, it's not a trilogy anymore. I have the first 2 seasons of the show, and I didn't want to watch season 2 until I read this book. And obviously, I've made a lot of progress. I'm on chapter 13 of this book. I have 2 or 3 of this same bookmark. We're all mad here. Which, basically, I really like the bookmark, and the fact that it says we're all mad here. I'm on chapter 13 at the moment, but this is, in case you don't know what this is about, this is, a lot of people compare it to Twilight, because this is a similar love story where you have this human girl who is a witch, which that's one of the differences from Twilight. She is not a student anymore. She is a college, she's a college student, actually. She's a college student. She's currently studying in Oxford, and she wants to be a historian, and she discovers this manuscript, Ashmole 782. I mean, the fact that is, I remember that is because the fact that it was written so many times, they refer to it so many times in the first book, that's why I remember it so well. And she notices some markings on it, that show it might have some magic, and her whole life she's kind of, since she was a little girl, and after her parents were killed, she blames magic for their death. So she wants to stay, for the longest time she stayed away from magic. She didn't practice her magic, and so she decides to put the manuscript back. But then she starts being spied on. People are watching her. People are following her around and approaching her, and including this vampire Matthew Claremont, who is a biology professor at Oxford.
and he also wants to know about the manuscript because it turns out the manuscript might have some secrets on each of the different fantastical races, witches, vampires, and demons, and it might have some secrets on that. And so the vampires want it, the demons want it, the witches want it, and he is drawn to her, like Edward is drawn to Bella, and he offers to help protect her. And at first she, because unlike Bella, she's well aware of how dangerous vampires. Well, actually, Bella was aware. She did research. She's just dumb and was like, "Oh, you will never harm me." Although I guess you see that concept in all vampire mortal romances. She is like, "I don't trust you. I want to stay away from you," but she ends up being drawn to him as well, and he continues, and slowly over time they fall in love. And the whole time they're trying to learn about Ashmole and find out his secrets and protect her from these different groups of people that are trying to hunt her down and hold her hostage so she'll give them the information about Ashmole. And it turns out she might be more powerful than they realize, that she has a lot of suppressed magic, and that might have made her a lot more powerful than she is willing to admit. And there might be more to her parents' death than she realizes. This is the second book in that series, and I've enjoyed it so far. What I've read so far, Diana, that's the main character's name. She has to go to Elizabethan England, so we're getting a lot of that, and a lot of, Matthew knows a lot of people. A lot of, this brings up, let me see if they say his, I'm trying to, it doesn't say it, but the guy that is kind of a rival to Shakespeare, I cannot remember his name at the moment, the other famous, Christopher Marlowe, that's his name. Christopher Marlowe is in this book, and a couple other, famous historical, what is this? I wish I can remember. I'm trying to go back so I can see if I can catch the names of some of the. I cannot remember. But yeah, there's a lot of famous, famous historical figures that are mentioned in this book that Matthew has crossed paths with, and they might his friend. They are his friends. So I need to come back to this one. Like I said, it started out as a trilogy. I mean, they only added a fourth. The author Deadmar Harkness only added a fourth book to it, so it's still not a lot. It's still not a super long series, and I do have some super long series here. Next is the Iliad by Homer, translated by Robert Fitzgerald. Which no one's mentioned. I don't think anyone's mentioned Robert Fitzgerald and if his translation is good or not, but. I ended up reading the Odyssey first, which I know a lot of people, you should probably read the Odyssey after you read the Iliad, because this is the war, and the Odyssey is one of the people in the war going home. So that technically is the second book, and this is the first book, but I feel like it's not like your traditional story where you will not be able to, if I accidentally read out of order, which I did, I'm not that confused. And also I know, and it probably helps that I know some of this information already. So, it was okay that I was able to get away with it. And then, of course, I've seen the movie that was based on the events of the Iliad. I cannot remember what it's called, but it came out in the early 2000s, with Orlando Bloom is in it, and I can't remember. Oh, Brad Pitt is in it. I cannot remember. It's basically this. But yeah, since I've already read the other one first, I need to get to this one now. I need to finally read this one. Okay, and then oh my god, my bookmarks keep slipping out of their books. Now I have to find where I left off with this one too. And I'll have to check and make sure, because I did start rereading it. And I'm not, I don't know if I cannot believe, this is so annoying that I keep pulling on the strings enough to pull the bookmark out of the book. But Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon, the prequel book just came out, and it's just as big. And a lot of people say that a lot of people feel like this wasn't as good, and that, for a standalone debut, but that the other one, Fall of Day and Night, or I don't remember what it's called, but that one's an improvement. But I'm still going to read this one first, and then come back to that one. And then read that. And plus, I want to wait until it comes out in paperback, because the last time I bought this one on hardback, because I was very excited to read it. So I was like, I went ahead and bought it the first time it came out. And then now I'm kind of like, I prefer paperbacks in most cases. So I was like, so I ended up eventually, over a long period of time, it took me a long time before I finally bought the paperback version. So I want to wait until the Fall of Day and Night, or whatever it's called, comes on paperback before I, buy it. So I'm gonna read this one. I want to read this one, and then I will read that one. Okay. So next is another book from a series, and that is The Shadow Rising from the Wheel of Time series. This is book 4, and I keep meaning to read this, but I keep going back and forth between, do I reread of Clash of Kings? But I already read that, and maybe I can do that later, and I really should do this one next, because I haven't read this at all, and I need to get to it. So that's my constant back and forth argument between this one and the Clash of Kings. I did read the first chapter in this book. And I am excited to read this, but like I said, I'm also eager to read Clash of Kings, which is down here somewhere. Let me go ahead and show you guys. Clash of Kings, that's the other one I need to reread. That is a reread in this case. And I was just thinking about it the other day. But I also need to read Fire and Blood. I wanted to do it before the new season of House of the Dragon comes out, but it's getting closer and closer, and that is a big book. So actually, I should have pulled that one down too. So I should reread. That's another one I need to read. Fire and Blood. Fire and Blood. But I feel like I need to prioritize this first. Before that one, at least. Now, I don't know if I should prioritize it before this one, though. Because this is one I haven't read, and I've read this one, but it's been so long since I read this one. So these two as well. And then we have another series, Children of Dune by Frank Herbert. So I'm guessing this is about Paul's children, I'm guessing. And the next generation of the Atreides family. And I want to read this again. And I need to read another science fiction book that I'm not going to DNF. Like, someone put it that, I don't know if they were quoting Frank Herbert or someone else. I think they were quoting Frank Herbert, that Dune is science fiction for non-science fiction readers. And that's me. And I have liked it so far. Like, I like the first 2 books, and I want to get to this one. Of course, the problem, the problem is, though, the next book that I have is not this size. It's a mass market. And that was my bad because, like, oh, it's cheaper on Amazon. It's really cheap. It's only $7.99, so this must be a really nice discount. Then I should have known better that, you know, there's never going to be a regular size paperback unless it's at a used bookstore that is $7.99. Like, especially on Amazon. Like, maybe you can get a book for $7.99 that's a regular size paperback at, like, on Thrift Books or Book Outlet, but never on Amazon. So I should know better. So I keep debating, like, if I should just go ahead and re-buy it and then get rid of that copy. But then I feel guilty because I bought that copy. First, I mean, granted, I didn't spend that much. It was only $7.99, but that's because it was mass market. So I'm still trying to, you know, I might buy it at Thrift Books. But anyway, that is that. And then the next is another book from another series. Don't worry, there are some, but I do have books here that are not part of series. Well, this actually is a trilogy. The first book in the Mayfair Chronicles, by Anne Rice, The Witching Hour, I feel like I should read this. I started it last year, or it was either last year or 2022 when I started it. But I attempted to read it in honor of Anne Rice, and now I feel like I should read it in honor of Jennifer Brooks, who passed away earlier this month. Feel like I should read it, get back to it, you know, in her honor, and also I just need to get back to it. I'm on chapter 10, and which at least our 2 main characters have had met, and now one of them is finally the main guy has finally made it to New Orleans. But yeah, I need to get back to this either way, so my motivation will be read this in honor of Jennifer Brooks, who was a big Anne Rice fan, particularly her vampire books. Okay. So then, like I said, I'm almost done with series. I have a lot of series that I need to continue with. So then in which I now have no excuses because Terry got me the 4th book for last Christmas. So in Christmas 2020. So I have no excuses but to get back to and read book 3, which is Ruin. Ruin by John Gwynne. This is the 3rd book in the Faithful and the Fallen series. The last book is Wrath, and like I just said, Terry got it for me for Christmas, so I had no excuse, and I need to finish that series. It's kind of a, you know, I want to say they're kind of like Vikings, I think. It's a fantasy, obviously, and there's multi-character perspectives. And once I'm done reading the series all the way through, what I need to do is reread it straight through instead of just reading separating, doing a lot of time in between each book, because I can't even really talk about the series because I barely remember what happens in the plot. I mean, I think his books do have a little, they might have, well, maybe not. Let me see. Nope, they don't. I mean, I guess I could do Wikipedia and refresh my memory what happens in each of the books, in the first 2 books. That's what I should do. I might do, like, before I start reading it, or just maybe see if someone has done a recap of the first 2 books. But, I mean, that's what I did with Way of Kings, and that really helped. But, yeah, I need to finish the series finally. And now I have no excuse, because I have all 4 books. So, And also, so I can, which I don't know why it did it again, where it shows like a bubble of a thumbs up on my screen. I don't know why. That's really weird. Okay, and then we have Wizard and Glass, the fourth book in the Dark Tower series. And another one that I've started and I meant to continue with, but I didn't. And this kind of deviates from the main arc of the story from what I've heard. Like, it's Roland of Gilead telling his quartet story from his youth, I think. And I am on the next chapter, Susan. And so this is the one I want to get to, because I read the first 3 books years ago, and then I finally was like, I need to reread them, so I reread them. Now, I've not read the prequel book that he wrote, The Wind Through the Keyhole. I haven't picked up that, but I want to read book 4 first, and then I will pick up The Wind Through the Keyhole. Because this is the one that I never read. So I definitely need to get to this one sooner rather than later. Okay. So these next 2 books are books where it took me forever to read the first ones of these series, and I finally got around to them and read them and finished them, especially The Way of Kings. And the next one is Words of Radiance, book 2. So I need to pick this up this year. Which, by the way, I feel like I should go through all these books and really pick the ones from this pile that I really should prioritize. But it's going to be hard. Because it's like, I'll be like, oh, I should prioritize this one and this one. But then I feel like, oh, I should, but I really want to read this one too. And then there's some of these that are fantasy books. I'm like, okay, which fantasy should I prioritize? But this is book 2 in the Stormlight Archives. And I'm kind of behind, I'm behind everybody else. I need to catch up and read. And now this one, I believe, is focused on Shallan, because I think Oathbringer is kind of more Dalinar's book, while Way of Kings was Kaladin's book. So I think this one is Shallan's book, based on this little poster. So I need to pick it up, and I know I'm gonna enjoy it. It's just it's a big book. It's a lot. So and then the other one is The Name of All Things, which is the sequel to Ruin of Kings. This one is a 9-book series. This one is going to be a 10-book series. But he, Brandon Sanderson is divvying up, so he writes 5, he writes the first arc, and then we have the second arc, which is, but The Name of All Things is the sequel to Ruin of Kings, which I really enjoyed. Again, I need to pick it up. But again, it's trying to decide which books I should prioritize between these ones. Okay. Now, 3 more series, I think, in the last 5 books are not, or wait, no. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The last 7 books are not books from series. Oh wait, 8, 10. So I actually have 10 more books, but they're still not, none of them are books from series. Okay, so first you have The Magicians. This was one I wasn't sure. Like, I started to read it, but I just wasn't feeling it at the time. And then Murphy Napier read it and did a vlog on her reading it, and she fell in love with this trilogy. And I am someone who's like, when it's a book tour, I really like, unless it's just totally not my thing at all. If a book tour talks about a book that I've considered, but then I decide to walk away from it and softy and F it, So I decided to give this another shot, and luckily I hadn't donated it yet. So I'm gonna try it again because, like I said, she got me excited about it and wanting to give it another shot. And I love the show. I mean, yes, it does a lot of different things compared to the book, but you still get the basic premise. And I don't know why, because the whole idea of these characters falling in love with the series and then discovering the magic is real and going to college for magic, and then I know later they go to the world from that series that they love. And I also really like that Quinton, the main character, is just an average guy who has depression, and he's not like some kind of chosen one or hero. Like, it's kind of critiquing those tropes a little bit, I think. But yeah, I want to get into that. I want to give this one another shot. And then we have The Spider by Leo Carew. This is the second book in the Under the Northern Sky trilogy. I liked the first one, and although this was almost a situation where, because I was not finding the second book at the store, and it was going to be something a book that I would have to buy, like either on Amazon or Thrift Books or Book Outlet, and of course it would be more expensive on Amazon because it is Amazon, and I had to wait until it went kind of on sale in Thrift Books, because even though Thrift Books, it's still used books, it still can be kind of pricey. I mean, it's not the same pricing as in getting a book at Amazon or getting a book at Books A Million or Barnes & Noble, but it was still, it's not like you're getting books for like $1 or 50 cents or something. You're getting them for like 10 or 20. You're still getting them for like, depending on the book. So it was a while before I finally picked it up, and I was, sometimes when that happens, I eventually move on and forget about it, and basically lose interest, and then I never continue. And I've been trying to make sure that doesn't happen, and getting all the books in a series. Like, I just got an email from Thrift Book saying that the sequel to another series, which I can't think of the name, the sequel just came out, it went down in price at some point. And of course it went up a couple dollars again, and I'm like trying to stick to my budget, and I'm getting close to the end, so it's like, you know what, I don't need to buy another book, let me just wait. And besides, unfortunately, it does say on Thrift Books that there's only one left in stock anyway. So by the time February rolls around, which is in a few days, it'll probably already be gone. I mean, if it's not, I could buy, might buy it. But this is the sequel to The Wolf, and I'm assuming it picks up right where The Wolf left off. It kind of makes me think a little bit of Bernard Cornwell's The Saxon series, with the main character and what they're dealing with and everything. But yeah, so I want to get to this one soon. And then the last one that's part of the series anyway, not the last one of all the books. Like I said, I have 10 more to show you. But we have Alloy of Law. So Brandon Sanderson wrote another series in the Mistborn world, and he's going to write some more in his Mistborn world. And each one, I think, is going to be based on like a time period in our world. And this is that was the first series, the last empire, the final empire in that whole trilogy is kind of based on like a medieval kind of inspired setting, and this is supposed to be like a western. And I think the other one is going to be like probably more modern, and then he's going to do a futuristic one, I think. But yeah, and these are not that long. Now there are 4 books instead of just 3 books. Now I know that a lot of people don't love the series and I think it's partly because they're not into westerns. Oh, okay, so it's not the same. For a second, I thought it was kind of this. It was also Gilmore Girls Bookmark, but and but I want to try. I want to get into it because I got them all in this edition. At least the first 3 books in this particular edition. So I am determined to read it. And when we were talking about going to London, this was a consideration. This book, one of the last Miss Moore book of this era in this edition, because this is the UK covers, the white cover. So I need to get to this, and it's like I said, the thing is, it's not even that long, so it's really not a hard read. I mean, I should really consider reading it now. You know, I did think about reading it for winter time, so those are that. Now we are finally going to talk about non-series. Okay, so some of these are going to be really big. We have War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. I like this, how this one has a built-in bookmark, so I don't have to worry about it slipping out. This is one of the most famous Russian classics. Probably Tolstoy's magnum opus. It's about I don't know what's the war particularly, but I was reading it because I obviously did start it, and it's Russian literature. The only reason why it can be a little more challenging is the length, for one, in Tolstoy's case, but also the names. If you're not a native Russian speaker or don't know the language, then I imagine the names will be very confusing, and I kind of stumble on them as I'm reading it. But I do love Russian literature, and I was reading when I started reading this. It's really not that hard of a read. It's just super long, and there's a lot of characters. But I'm really liking it, so I liked what I've read so far. So I want to read this. Get back into this at some point. Okay, then we have. This is another one I have to make progress. I have to finish. I have to finally finish this one. I mean, I've read a good chunk, and I have this much left to go, and I need to get to this. Let me see. Did I start? Nope, not on even. I'm on an odd chapter. And I need to finally finish this book. It's a chunk, it's still chunky, and I'm slowly making progress at it. And I like it when I read it. It's just like I'm still not used to this length of book, so I need to get back into it and finish it for once. So, like, in case you don't know, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell is about 2 rival magicians. It's in a world where magic did exist, but it's recently kind of become extinct, and there are people who study magic. And then eventually, like, this one older magician comes out of the woodwork, and tells them he's real, and he even demonstrates that he's a real magician. Everyone is obsessed and so amazed by his magic, and he is like, well, just in case, then I think I should be the only one. So, because all of you are amateurs, so you're not allowed to practice magic anymore. And then this younger magician shows up, that Jonathan Strange. And at first they started as friends, like he becomes Mr. Norrell's apprentice. But then he kind of doesn't like how Mr. Norrell kind of holds him back, because they have very different views of magic. It's like traditional versus modern, at least modern for the time. And they end up becoming rivals. And so far it's really good. It's kind of set in the Regency era, although I feel like it also reads like a mix of Dickens and Austen to me. Which I love when you have historical, like, especially in a time period where you don't get a lot of fantasy stories that are set in that time period. Like, you have a lot of medieval fantasy stories, and you also have a lot of, like, I'm trying to think of another era where they have a lot of fantasy elements, where they talk about fantasy. And I feel like at the time, there weren't a lot of historical fiction in this time period. I mean, that's why I really enjoy Tamarier, because it's during a time period where they don't do fantasy elements, you know, and that one includes the idea of dragons being real, and that during the Napoleonic Wars they use dragons, which I think is a interesting premise to look at. But this one is not dragon, but there is magicians, and there is fae, in this one as well. There's a fairy king involved. But yeah, so I need to get back to this and finally finish it. Okay, then we have The Luminaries, which is a story that I don't know if there's fantasy in this or not, but I know it takes place during the Gold Rush, and I think this guy's friend was visiting New Zealand and ends up dead. So the guy decides to investigate and find out what happened to his friend. He's interviewing the people, the Maori people in there, and trying to figure out the mystery of what happened to his friend. And again, I've read some of it. Oh, that's why I followed that page. I was wondering, because I was holding this book and talking about it in the my books that I think Rory Gilmore would read. And I was wondering why I had this page folded down. And I realized it's because it's page 150. And so I'm out reading to that page. So, and then taking a break. Because I like to mark, how there are certain pages like reading to page 200, reading to 150, reading to, 400 or 500 or whatever. And kind of folding it over so that if I decide to stop, then I can stop at that page. So, I need to get back into this. So I don't know if this has any fantasy elements or not. But the chapters are referencing astrological signs. So, yeah, I need to pick this one and continue this one as well. Okay. Did I talk about... this is another book that I talked about on the, my books that I think Rory Gilmore would read that are more recent releases. But that's William Gaddis's The Recognitions. This was one that was talked about on Leaf by Chris from Leaf by Leaf talked about this one. And it did get my attention the way he talked about it, and it just sounded really intriguing. But it's a bit of a hard read, at least for me anyway. It's not a writing style that I'm used to, and it's dense. It's a lot. I mean, it's modern writing, so it's not that hard to read necessarily, but it's hard in the sense that, like I said, it's a lot to read. And like I said, the writing can sometimes I get confused and can't figure out what's going on. So like I said, I need to read it when there's less distraction. Like I can't read it in the car when we're traveling to either my sister or my grandmother's house because there's just too many distractions, because my parents love talk radio. So this is kind of a guy who's questioning the art of today's modern world and feeling like it's all fake and all replicas and there's nothing original anymore. That's what he's basically talking about in this. And he becomes like a famous, our main character, Wyatt, becomes, because he's not as good of an artist, so he just creates copies of other people's famous artwork. And it just leaves him disgruntled and unhappy. Which, by the way, I just realized that. Why couldn't I say that? Why couldn't I remember that when I was talking about this book when I filmed my video a few minutes ago on books I think Rory would read? Because that was so much better than what I was saying before on this book, on that book. In that video. So I like the premise and I like the idea of this book, but like I said, it's a lot to read. Okay. And then we have Vanity Fair by William Makepeace Thackeray. This is like the English version of, it's been often compared to Gone with the Wind, so it's like the British English version of Gone with the Wind, where you have a woman who is, you know, manipulative and charming and just everyone's her puppet. Although it's really not, Vanity Fair is really nothing like Gone with the Wind in its premise. So I don't know why. I mean, you know, comparing to Gone with the Wind. I mean, I guess the comparison is the main character in the book, Becky Sharp. And they compare her to Scarlett O'Hara, I guess that's the comparison. But yeah, I have been meaning to read this one as well. And I think she's someone that interferes and plays matchmaker. In fact, it's, you know, it's probably more like the way people talk about Becky Sharp. She, in the premise, like I said, I think she, oh, well, no, maybe not. I was thinking it was kind of like Emma a little bit with its premise, but maybe not. But again, I need to pick this up. Okay, so this next one is, okay, so I just read Noli Me Tangere by Jose Rizal, which is a famous classic that was required reading in the Philippines. And the author, this book is like looking at a time when Spain kind of, the Spanish government took over the Philippines. And it's kind of a sad story, like especially the end. But it's still really good. And the problem is, the reason why I'm hesitant to do a separate review for that book is because I don't know the history, and I enjoyed the book, and I knew what was going on. I figured out what was going on, but I almost feel like I can't really talk about it deeply because I don't know the history of the Philippines. I've like never really learned a lot about my country, about that country, because, you know, I was raised in America. I wasn't, you know, I don't know anything about my Filipino heritage, and I'm really only 25% Filipino, because, I mean, but it's like, and my mom's like half. So, but to me, as I said when talking about my goal, which is to read more books set in the Philippines, I want to connect with that part of my heritage. But I want to do justice to my review of that book. And I feel like I can't really do that because I don't know the history. And I'm looking from a, you know, blindly was stumbling through that book. And I feel like I should have read this book first, which is The History of the Philippines by Louis H. Francia. Because that way I would know a little bit about what they're talking about. Like, I do have relatives I probably could ask, but I feel like I want to discover on them because I don't know for sure if I have relatives I could ask. But, and this even has a picture of Jose Rizal in here. And, so I feel like I should have read this first, and I didn't because I was excited to read that book. So what I would like to do is read this and read other books set in the Philippines, and then come back to that one, and then maybe do a review. Like I was going to, but I'm kind of hesitant to do it because I feel like it wouldn't be a good review. But yeah, so I need to read this one. Okay, 3 more to go. So then we have Moby Dick by Herman Melville. I just read In the Heart of the Sea. I really liked it, which is basically about the actual historical event that inspired Herman Melville, which is about a whaling ship that got destroyed, and the people on the whaling ship were forced to figure out their way home, and they were kind of stuck in the middle of the ocean. And like it was destroyed because they were attacked by a whale. A whale crashed into their ship. So this, if you don't know the story, like Moby Dick, is this guy named Ishmael is on this ship, on a whaling ship that's captained by this guy named Captain Ahab, and he wants revenge on this particular whale, this great white whale, because the whale caused him to lose his leg. So he wants revenge on this whale. And Ishmael kind of gets caught in the middle. Gets caught in this mess. And like, as Jennifer Brooks said, it's not that hard of a read. It's still a really good read. It's just there are a lot of chapters that are kind of, like, for a lot of people, are tedious and boring. Like, if you're not into whaling, you might not like them. But as long as you're aware of that, you could still enjoy this book, I think. And which I don't know who Elizabeth Harwood, but I have to look up who that person is. Like, what's the, because it's by Herman Melville. Like, what is her, oh, introduction. Okay, so she's the person who does the introduction in this version. And as you can see, I've read a good chunk of it. Of course. So, and the chapters aren't that long, so I need to get back to this soon. So there's a lot of these books I need to get back to. Okay, and then we have Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky. So the problem is, I'm struggling with this one because it's very slow going. I do like the characters, and I think it provides some interesting food for thought. There are a lot of intriguing discussion between the three brothers. Unfortunately, we haven't got to the actual murder part where their father gets murdered. But yeah, it's very slow going. But it's still really interesting. It is intriguing. It's just slow, and there are boring parts. But I need to get this. So that's again another situation where I'm trying to choose between the two Russian classics. Like, do I prioritize War and Peace, or do I get to this one? And this one is taking a long time for me to read. I mean, War and Peace will probably take me a long time too. So, okay, which one do I prioritize? That's the question. Okay, so we're finally on one more book. This is the other reason why I'm glad I decided not to do my review, to film my review, because this is taking me a long time. Because there's a lot of books that I've grabbed that I want to show you guys that I want to continue with, that I'm thinking about for 2024. So, last one is Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. Now, I wasn't crazy about Hunchback of Notre Dame by Victor Hugo, but I am enjoying this one. Personally, I really like these leather-bound editions. These flexi-bound editions. I like the feel of these ones, and I like how it has quotes and stuff on here. But I love the musical, and I like the Jeffrey Rush and Liam Neeson movie. So it was like, I need to get around to reading the book, because as you guys know, I mentioned before that I attempted to read it, and it turns out it was an abridged version, and at the time I was bored. But I gave this one another shot and read the full version, and I very much enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it so far. It's really good so far, and like, there's a lot more in this book that has not been in the adaptations. Because look how big this thing is. There's a lot of stuff that is not mentioned, and like there's more to the priest that gives him forgiveness, that gives Jean Valjean forgiveness. Then is because like we meet him in the musical and the movies and interact with him, and he steals the silver, and then when the guards catch him, the priest is like, oh no, I gave these to him. And then, he's like, okay, the guards are like, okay, fine, and leave. And then he's like, I forgive you, my son, for stealing from me, but I want you in return to do better and not be a criminal anymore, to not steal from people anymore. And it really gives Jean Valjean this epiphany, and he becomes a better person. But he's still a criminal, and he still has to be in hiding because Javert is still trying to hunt him down because he skipped parole. And he ends up taking one of his workers, Fantine, has a kid, and he promises to take her in, and he raises her, and then she falls in love with this young man who's part of, when she is older and a teenager, she falls in love with this young man, Marius, who's part of the revolution. So the part of the story also takes place during the French Revolution. And it's so good. It's actually really good. It's just, again, really long. A lot to read. So that's the last one. And I need to go through all these books and see which ones I should prioritize before I put them all away. But that's going to be very hard to do, because I still have all these other books, and there's all these new books that I've recently bought that I'm like, some of them I want to read like right now. So yeah, so those are tentative books that I want to read for in 2024, which I probably won't read all of them. I should put some of these back, and there's still so many books on my shelf that that are on here. I mean, and of course I'm into other books right now. Like I started Demons by Dostoevsky, and of course I have not continued with Brothers Karamazov. So there's that, and then we have, I'm in the middle of The Crusades, which is a nonfiction, and I'm only on chapter 2 because each chapter is super long. And then I'm also, out of my fantasy books, I'm reading this one right now, which is the second book in the Lycanius trilogy, because I don't want this to be, I'm trying, since last year, I've been trying to make sure that I finish a lot of my, finish my trilogy, make sure I finish series, or at least trilogies, or quartets, instead of just leaving them sitting there and reading them taking years to read them. So there's that. And then like I said, I got a whole bunch of, I was thinking about for February to do kind of a Regency, like a Jane Austen themed reading month. But like I said, I have so many other books that I want to read, so I don't know what to do. This is why I can't plan have planned reading, because then I don't follow through with it. So, and then I get so excited about these ideas, and I tell booktubers, as a way to give them a comment on the video, if they're talking about, something has to connect to my reading plan, and remind me of my reading plan, and I tell them, but then I feel bad because I change my mind later. I do feel like I can still read some Jane Austen in February, but then there's other books I want to read in February that are not Jane Austen related. So, anyway. So I hope this wasn't too long and boring for you guys, and you found it interesting. And hopefully I'm not the only one who struggles with this problem. So if you guys like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell notification button below if you want to be notified about my latest videos. And I hope you're enjoying your reading, and I will talk to you all later. Alright, bye!